Newton studied at Cambridge until the Plague of London forced the university to close in 1665. He then returned to his family's home in Woolsthorpe, England, where he developed many of the theories for which he is best known today. It was during that time, it is said, that an apple inspired him to study gravity. According to a popular story, the young scientist saw an apple fall from a tree and questioned why the apple, or any object, falls down to the ground rather than sideways or up into the air. Newton decided that matter must have a force that pulls other matter toward it. The larger the object, the greater the force. In this case, then, once the apple separates from the tree, the earth pulls it in what the human eye perceives as a downward or falling motion. Newton also theorized that the force that pulls falling objects to the ground is the same force that keeps the moon moving around the earth.
Inequality does a few different things to the way that both our minds and our bodies respond. One is that it makes us focused on the short term. It makes us impulsive, focused on the here and now. And it makes us more willing to seek out risks and engage in high risk, high reward sort of gambling behaviors. It also affects our bodies in ways that are similar to physical threats. So the social threat of feeling lower on the status ladder than somebody else provokes very similar reactions physiologically to a physical stressor. So we react as if we were about to be physically attacked. We react with stress responses as if we were about to face a literal physical challenge. And the total of all of those effects adds up to feeling that we're constantly in crisis.
So this, of course, is the Shard, London's tallest building, and we might even say London's new symbol. It's worth studying not just for the way it blends into the London skyline, but because several new engineering techniques were pioneered when it was built. One was the so-called top-down construction, which basically means that the foundations were dug and the concrete centre of the building was put up at the same time, at least as far as the 23rd story. This reduced the construction time by 3 months. Although this wasn't an entirely new thing, it had certainly never been used for a skyscraper before. Then there was the use of the building's permanent lift shaft during construction, with the lift jumping higher as the building became taller. That was thought to be the best way to transport people and materials up and down, rather than using any outside construction.
School-to-work transition is a historically persistent topic of educational policymaking and reform that impacts national systems of vocational education and training. The transition process refers to a period between completion of general education and the beginning of vocational education, or the beginning of gainful employment, as well as to training systems, institutions, and programs that prepare young people for careers. The status passage of youth from school to work has changed structurally under late modernism, and young people are forced to adapt to changing demands of their environment, especially when planning for entry into the labor market. While some young people have developed successful strategies to cope with these requirements, those undereducated and otherwise disadvantaged in society often face serious problems when trying to prepare for careers.
The background extinction rate, that is, the so-called natural rate at which the Earth loses species, is typically between 1 and 5 species per year. The extinction rate is thought to be so high these days because of deforestation, habitat loss, overhunting, pollution, climate change, and other human activities that affect the survival of species or the places where they live. All of us can understand that the extinction of a species is a loss for the global biosphere. The species is gone forever, and this is certainly bad enough to consider, but it's also a loss for the local ecosystem where it lived. For the vaquita, this means the northern Gulf of California, the marine ecosystem there. The job it performs in the ecosystem as a predator, competitor, or food source goes unfilled and unperformed. So one can understand that the sudden absence of the vaquita can disrupt the normal functioning of the marine ecosystem.
Promoting active lifestyles can help us address some of the important challenges facing the UK today. Increasing physical activity has the potential to improve the physical and mental health of the nation, reduce all-cause mortality and improve life expectancy. It can also save money by significantly easing the burden of chronic disease on the health and social care services. Fewer car journeys can reduce traffic, congestion and pollution, improving the health of communities. Other potential benefits linked to physical activity in children and young people include the acquisition of social skills through active play, better concentration in school, and displacement of antisocial and criminal behavior.
On April 3, 2020, a woman in Punjab, India posted a photo of the Himalayas on Twitter taken from her rooftop, and it went viral. The photo itself was unremarkable. It became a sensation because that particular view simply hadn't existed before that day, which came 3 weeks after the city was effectively shut down by COVID. 3 weeks was all it took to wipe away the cloak of air pollution that obscured the iconic mountain range. The same phenomenon was taking place around the world as photos revealing deep blue skies emerged from the likes of Beijing, Rio, and LA. Scientists say that CO2 emissions dropped by as much as 7% in that period, the largest drop in history, and the kind of impact we could expect if, say, half of the drivers in the world converted to electric vehicles.
As technology advances beyond the automation of simple, repetitive tasks, human work is undergoing major changes. That affects professionals as well as blue-collar workers. In the face of automation and computer-augmented work, jobs will increasingly revolve around the skills that distinguish humans from machines, the ability to interact, create, and think critically. Those changes will put a greater premium on reskilling and upskilling. Workers in occupations once insulated from substitution by automation will find themselves displaced in larger numbers. Employers, educators, policymakers, and philanthropists will have to collaborate to create a system that supports those transitions. Companies will also have an important role to play. Deploying new technology may bolster competitiveness initially, but it won't sustain it without companies maintaining the institutional knowledge and personal relationships their current workforces possess. That will require companies investing in their workers to build new skills.
Solar cells can provide remote areas with electricity during the day, but require batteries to store that energy for use at night. Raman's team has developed a potential solution, a simple thermoelectric device that generates power when it's exposed to the cool night sky. It's made possible by a phenomenon called radiative sky cooling. Raman reasoned that this temperature difference could be exploited to generate electricity. His team built their device using an aluminum disc that acts as a radiative cooler. Its cool side faces the night sky, while its other side is warmed by the air around it. As heat escapes upwards, a thermoelectric generator converts the temperature difference into electricity that powers a small LED light. For now, the energy output of the device is just a tiny fraction of what a solar cell can produce, but engineering improvements could eventually boost its performance.
Every single waking moment of our life is documented on social media, from the moment we wake up to the time we fall asleep. While its effectiveness for the purposes of entertainment may be justified, social media can be used beyond the random memes and status updates. There are many ways that social media can actually aid your career as a student, from honing your professional skills to even helping you figure out the right career for yourself. You'd be surprised to learn that socializing and building relationships go a long way when it comes to your career. Professional networks and relationships help you get noticed, meet like-minded individuals, and land the right opportunities. A strong network also helps you garner valuable connections whenever required.
What is human capital? Human capital is the knowledge, skills, and personality attributes that humans have that contribute to the creation of goods and services. Our creativity and habits are also part of human capital. In other words, human capital is the collection of all our resources. It comprises all our knowledge, abilities, talents, skills, intelligence, training, judgment, and experience. Human capital also includes our wisdom, individually and collectively. Quite simply, it refers to qualities that human beings have or learn that make them more productive. In a national economy, human capital refers to how its population contributes towards wealth creation. Human capital also refers to the value of a person for a company, specifically their value regarding being productive during the time span of their career.
To create weather forecasts, meteorologists need to feed accurate information about current weather conditions into their models, and planes are one of the best ways to get such info, since they sample the atmosphere at different altitudes and locations. But with the coronavirus grounding flights around the world, meteorologists are feeling the loss. Forecast quality declined the most for long-range projections and over remote areas where planes are one of the few sources of data. In Greenland, for example, the accuracy of temperature forecasts has decreased by as much as 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Areas with heavy air traffic like the US and China were also affected because fewer flights means less data. Europe made out better thanks to its dense network of ground-based weather stations. Subpar forecasts may sound like little more than a headache. After all, weather is notoriously unpredictable, but it could be a big problem for many industries, like utilities, which have to estimate household heating and cooling needs in order to meet electricity demand.